This is Gamer Weekly, bringing you the latest of what the video game scene has to offer. On today's episode of Gamer Weekly, I have Andreas of Spaces of Play, and we're going to be talking about their latest game, Future Unfolding. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Gamer Weekly. With me today is Andreas of Spaces of Play. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you.
So you guys just released your game, Future Unfolding. Can you tell me what the game is about?
Sure. So Future Unfolding is an exploration game where you have to figure out everything yourself. So there's no hand-holding, there's no tutorial. And you're sort of thrown into this real world where weird things happen. And the world is partly hand-designed and partly procedurally generated.
And so the no hand-holding thing, do you feel like that's a trope that's kind of like happening more and more now? Do you feel like we got to the point where we were just basically telling everybody, hey, go this way and just do that, do what we're saying so that you can see everything that's part of the game? And I guess in recent games, kind of like Breath of the Wild and stuff, they're like, we're not going to tell you anything. You just kind of figure it out on your own. So
yeah, I guess it's something that has emerged during the last year. So, I mean, we started working on this game over 4 years ago. So previously we made a game called Spirits. So after we did Spirits, we tried to discuss internally what game we should do next. And we discussed and thought about it for quite a while. And around that time, there was this article going about. It was called Saving Zelda, and it was sort of a critique of the previous Zelda game, Skyward Sword, and how handheld it was and how much tutorials it had and so on, and that you as the player were not allowed to do anything at all before someone else would tell you or show you how to do it, which was very sort of babysitting way of teaching you the game mechanics. So we read that and we were thinking, can we make a game that is exactly the opposite of that? So can we make a game that is sort of truly about an exploration where you have to explore both the world, but you also have to figure out what you can actually do in the first place. So when you play the game, we show you which buttons or keys you can press, but we don't tell you what they actually do. So figuring out what you can do, figuring out the possibility space, is sort of one of the aspects of the game that make it interesting to play. And I guess we're not the only ones who had these ideas. So obviously, sort of Breath of the Wild just got released 2 weeks before our game Future Unfolding. But when it comes to hand-holding or the lack of hand-holding, it seems to have sort of course-corrected itself or the series into the same direction that we have been trying to go.
And you guys, they pretty much agreed with you that they were like, we should probably stop hand-holding so much and just kill them instantly every single time.
Right. So I have read a lot about Breath of the Wild, but since we just released our game, I haven't actually had the chance to play it myself. But I think I don't think they agreed with us. I guess they probably had never played our game before. But I think it was just. I think what you could hear during those 4 years was that more and more people. People were outspoken about that they didn't like the handholding, and then more and more games, I think, gradually try to move in the direction that to be less about that. I think one thing we've seen in the recent years is where games start with tutorials, but tutorials are just levels that just teach you the game through structures but they don't have any tutorial text. I think that has been a common theme in the recent years, and I think now, we're more close to giving taking the player seriously and sort of the intelligence of the player seriously. Another example is The Witness, I guess, which sort of teaches you the game through its own mechanics in a way, or teaches you the game without any words. So I think there's a few examples of that where it's not a completely new concept anymore, but I guess it's good for us that people I think people are comfortable to explore on their own and to figure out things on their own. It's like a more joyful experience for them.
How do you teach a player how to play the game without using tutorials?
So in our case, with Future Unfolding, there are 3 things you can do. You can walk around with the arrow keys or with the thumbstick. So that's basically just pick up and play. It's very like this. It just follows the convention of other games you played that are top down. Then we have a running button that's sort of easy to understand, and then we have an interact button, which does different things depending on who you interact with. We make the controls are really, really simple. So we have very few buttons that we use. So that in itself makes it relatively easy to sort of learn the game. And then the thing we focused on when we started developing the game is that we wanted to make sure walking around in the world feels like really enjoyable. So everything reacts to you. If you walk past trees or flowers or stones, they will all move. So you sort of leave a trace in the world. And before we added any puzzles to the game, we made sure that this feels nice to walk around in the world, so that while you're figuring out how to actually play the game, you're already enjoying the game, but you haven't found any puzzles yet. You don't know what anything means, but it's already nice to walk around. So we can sort of ease the players into unfolding or like unraveling all the secrets by having sort of a nice setting and like a interesting atmosphere, and so on. And to actually teach players how to solve the puzzles, I mean, we have subtle hints in the environment that sort of so the environment is all naturalistic. We have like a forest, and you have like hills and mountains and so on, and forest clearings. And then usually if there's a puzzle, you will usually have something that is arranged in a sort of unnaturalistic way, or like in a geometric pattern, for example. But basically, the way you play the game is through sort of trial and error, and then you sort of try to make an hypothesis about what this or that means, and then you do something, and you realize, oh, this means something else. So it's sort of. I think they sort of easily transition into it. The other thing we're doing is we often have multiple paths you can go. So if you have one puzzle where you're stuck, you can usually go in different directions. So we don't sort of lock you, or like it's not like with classic adventure games. If you're stuck at one puzzle, you couldn't go anywhere else. But in our game, because it's partially procedurally generated, you can always go, or in most cases, you can go in different paths and like go different directions if you sort of feel stuck, and then you can come back to a difficult puzzle later.
Because that's probably one of the most frustrating things about adventure games is that you can't get past a certain puzzle, and so you're kind of just like stuck on it. You're like, like any point and click adventure games, I've noticed that you can't like I'm trying to remember it's something like Space Quest or something where like if you don't pick up that certain item, you just basically automatically fail. I had an instance with my friend too who played Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and she went forward in time but forgot a item, but the way that she got back in time she wasn't able to because it was like blocked off, and she's like, well, I guess I'm just stuck here.
Right.
So I'm sorry, what'd you say?
So in our puzzles we also have usually have multiple solutions. You can solve a puzzle. So there are often multiple ways you can, like often the puzzle is an obstacle you have to sort of get out of the way, or you have to move past somehow. And in many cases there are different options for that to do that. And some of them are sort of designed, and some of them are like emergent that sort of maybe we didn't even think about that you could solve it that way, and the player can figure it out.
So kind of like how Breath of the Wild is, where there was a puzzle that I'm not going to spoil too much because I know you haven't played it yet. But there is one shrine that you can go to where I didn't really understand what to do for the puzzle, but it just was like a big stone brick wall. It was like 4 little like cubes that were sitting in front of me, and I had to blow it up, and there were like little barrels like floating around. and I was like, all right, forget it. I don't know what to do. And I just grabbed a bomb arrow and just shot at the wall, and I beat the puzzle. I'm like, I'm sure I wasn't supposed to do this, but
Right.
I beat it. So who's going to stop me from getting the piece for this? So,
Right. And I mean, if you play the game, you might not even realize that there are multiple solutions to a puzzle. You might think that the solution you found is the solution. So yeah.
and so is there any like shortcut things that I could do similar to that?
Yeah, I mean, probably. I don't mean, I don't want to spoil our game, but there are, yeah, I mean, there are all these animals you can meet in the game that that can help you and do different things. And yeah, usually there's multiple ways to solve a puzzle, and some of them might be. I mean, some of them are like easier than others, I think. So there's often like an easy solution and like a hard solution.
But
Yeah,
you always find a solution.
yeah, absolutely.
So, what was the inspiration behind the visuals of the game?
So we started. I mean, like we as a studio, we always try to do something interesting gameplay-wise, and also do something interesting visually. So that I mean, that's what we did with our previous game, Spirits. So we started with concept art that was like very painterly, and it looks very close to what the game looks now. And we wanted to have this sort of top-down perspective to have this type of exploration game that sort of like the very first Zelda on the NES, where you could just go in every direction and no one really tells you where to go. So we wanted to have that perspective, and we wanted to make sure the world feels alive. What I was mentioning earlier, like when you walk past trees and rocks and stones and so on, like everything moves, like everything reacts to you. So for that, and that's sort of how the art, like we sort of had this as a goal, and then we sort of developed the art style based on that. So the art style is basically all made of sort of like paint brushes or like particles that can sort of that can like move around. So if you look at the trees, for example, you have like all these small particles and paintbrushes that to make up the tree. We use the art style to make it feel like, to make the world feel really alive. And then one thing we realized once we decided we want to do top down, we need some kind of way to communicate like volumes and depth. Like if you have a character, like the main character or like an animal, and you only see them from top down, it's really hard for your brain to read, because there's sort of information, like visual information missing that you would otherwise have if you see them from a different perspective. And the way we sort of solve that is to have these 3D shadows in the game. So if you look at the game and look at it in motion, you can see that all the animations are hand-painted 2D, but all the shadows are actually 3D animations. And the way we do that is we animate every character from two different perspectives, and then we sort of combine these two animations and create a 3D model, which we then use to cast the shadow. And if we didn't have that, it would be really hard to actually read how the animals and how the character looks, and it would be really hard to orientate yourself. So the art style came from the design goals we had for the game, but also because we wanted to make something that looks visually interesting and that looks like something that no one has done before exactly in this way. So I think these are the two like goals we had with that.
So, what's your favorite part of the game?
So in our team, I was the one who was like playtesting the most. I didn't design any of the puzzles, so I was sort of like playtesting everything. And what I liked the most is how often the game surprises you with like new things. And I also really like the pacing of the game. Like you have like you have like areas that are really calm and like sort of peaceful, and then you have areas that are sort of hectic. I really like sort of the pacing through the whole game, like how you explore different things and how you learn new things, and that sort of like the change of pacing. I think that's my favorite part of the game.
And so the game's out currently right now.
Yes, it's the game is out on PC and Mac. You can find it on Steam, Humble Store, itch.io, the Mac App Store, and GOG.
And you can play it on Mac and PC right now, and it's coming out on PS4 and Linux soon.
This year.
All right. Well, you heard it here. Andreas, thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. And check out Future Unfolding. You can get it right now. Like you said, you can get it on Steam, GOG, Humble Bundle, itch.io, and soon PS4 and Linux as well. So check out other episodes of Gamer Weekly, and also check out the YouTube channel. Just type in Gamer Weekly and the icons look the same. Also, the icon's going to look different now. So spoiler, actually, it'll probably look different by the time that's out. So, hey, we decided to change the icon, and I hope everybody likes the look of it now. So thank you guys so much for listening, and goodbye.